You're a staunch supporter of Israel. Is that support unqualified, unconditional, or what sort of limits or guardrails should there be around how far Israel can go?
David, I support Israel because Israel is a liberal democracy, and I've said all throughout this conflict that we expect Israel to behave as a liberal democracy. But let's not forget the assault that happened on Israel on the 7th of October. If that happened here in Australia, in per capita terms, it would be about 3,000 Australians that lost their lives. How would we expect our government to respond if we were on the receiving end of an attack like that? Hamas has said that they intend to repeat the events of 7 October again and again and again. That is their political and military objective. And so I think it's completely understandable that the State of Israel doesn't want to live with that existential risk and wants to remove Hamas as a military threat to its people.
But does that mean Israel needs to follow international law?
Of course, all nations, all parties to conflict have to follow the international rules of conflict, David.
And you're confident Israel is?
It's not easy for me to judge from 12,000 kilometres away and in the fog of war. There's been a lot of misinformation, including earlier on in the conflict when Hamas claimed, and the many in the media, including the ABC, reported that Israel had bombed a hospital. It later emerged that it was a Palestinian Islamic Jihad rocket which had misfired and fallen on the hospital. So I think we do need to be careful about casting judgment from this far away in the middle of a conflict.
So does that mean you're not willing to cast judgment on whether it's following international law?
Judgment will be cast, David, but it will be cast after this conflict is over and through the normal, appropriate processes of international law, as it should be.
What about the rights of the people of Gaza, the civilians in Gaza? What rights do you think they have?
Well, they have a right not to be treated by Hamas as human shields. They have a right not to be held as hostages by Hamas. It's not just 239 Israelis, it's 2 million Gazans who are being used by Hamas as hostages in their conflict. They deliberately burrowed themselves in civilian infrastructure, including apartments, including schools, including hospitals, including refugee camps, and they use those civilians both as a human shield to protect them, but also as a propaganda weapon against Israel when inevitably civilian casualties occur. So Israel must do everything it can to minimise those civilian casualties. But Hamas has options here too, David. The war would end tomorrow if Hamas released those citizens, the captives. The war would end tomorrow if the Hamas leadership gave up.